I made my sister-in-law feel like about her weight. So my son Jake just turned 17, and for my birthday last month, he surprised me with this hammock swing I'd been eyeing for like 2 years. Kid spent almost $300 of his own money on it. Money he'd been saving from his job at the grocery store. When I opened it, I literally started crying because he said, "Mom, you never get anything nice for yourself. I wanted you to have something special." And he was right. My husband never gets me gifts that aren't like dish soap or kitchen towels, so this swing meant everything to me. Jake spent the whole weekend setting it up on our back deck. We read the manual together and everything. The weight limit was clearly marked at 250 lbs, and we even reinforced the hooks because I'm paranoid about things breaking. I'm only like 140, so I had plenty of room to spare. For 3 weeks, I sat in that thing every morning with my coffee watching the sunrise. It was literally my favorite part of the day. My sister-in-law, Brenda, comes over every Sunday for dinner. She's my husband's sister and weighs probably around 400. She does those eating videos online where she mukbangs fast food and makes decent money from it. She's always been cool about her size and never seemed bothered when she couldn't fit in restaurant booths or whatever. So last Sunday, she shows up and immediately spots my swing. She starts walking toward it, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, Brenda, please don't sit in that one. It's got a weight limit." She stops and asks what the limit is. So I tell her 250 and even show her the box with the specifications. She just shrugs and says, "Bummer. They should make these things stronger for us bigger girls." I agreed, and we went inside to start dinner. About an hour later, my husband comes home from his golf game and goes out to the deck to talk to Brenda while I'm in the kitchen making sides. I hear them chatting and laughing. Normal Sunday stuff. Then I hear this loud crack followed by my husband yelling, "Jesus Christ, are you okay?" I run outside and there's Brenda on the ground next to my completely destroyed swing. The metal hook had bent and the fabric was torn in half. She's sitting there laughing like it's hilarious and says, "Guess I should have listened to you." My husband is helping her up, asking if she's hurt. I just stood there staring at my ruined swing. The swing my son worked overtime shifts to buy me. The one thing I had that was actually mine and special. And she's laughing about it. So I said, "Brenda, I literally told you an hour ago not to sit in it because it wouldn't hold you. What the hell were you thinking?" She stops laughing and gets defensive, saying, "Weight limits are usually just suggestions and most things hold more than they say." That's when I snapped and said, "Maybe if you were only 50 lbs over the limit, but not 150 lbs over it." The deck went completely silent. Brenda's face turned red and she started tearing up. She said I was being cruel and that her weight wasn't a problem until I made it one. My husband immediately jumped in saying I'm being and it's just a swing. Brenda grabbed her purse and left without saying goodbye. When Jake handed me that wrapped box on my birthday, I thought it was just another candle or a coffee mug, something small and sweet. But when I pulled the paper back and saw the hammock swing I'd been dreaming about for 2 years, I completely lost it. I cried right there in the living room. Jake just smiled shyly and said, "Mom, you never buy anything for yourself. I wanted to get you something you'll actually enjoy." That swing became my peace. Every morning before the world woke up, I'd sit out there with my coffee and just breathe. The sunrise, the birds, the quiet, all of it made me feel grounded. It wasn't just furniture. It was a symbol that someone saw me, that someone cared enough to give me something beautiful just because I deserved it. So when Brenda came over that Sunday, the last thing I expected was for my sanctuary to become another argument. She saw the swing and her eyes lit up. I immediately warned her gently. "Hey, Brenda, please don't sit in that. The limit's only 250. I even showed her the box." She laughed it off, said something about companies needing to make things for bigger girls, and we both chuckled. I thought that was the end of it, but about an hour later I heard the sound, that sickening metallic crack. Then my husband's voice panicked. "Jesus Christ, are you okay?" I ran outside, heart pounding. There she was, Brenda sitting in a pile of torn fabric and twisted metal, laughing. My beautiful swing was in ruins, and all I could see was Jake's face in my mind. How proud he'd been, how careful we'd been installing it. I wasn't laughing. I couldn't. It felt like something personal had been taken from me, something that wasn't about money or material things. It was about effort, love, and respect. And when I saw her laugh again, I just broke. "Brenda," I said, trying to hold my voice steady, "I literally told you not to sit in it. Why would you do that?" She just shrugged, saying, "Weight limits are just suggestions." Things are made stronger than they say. And that's when it slipped out. The thing I wish I'd said differently, or maybe not at all. Maybe if you were 50 pounds over, not 150. Everything went quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. Brenda's laughter died instantly, her face turning red as her eyes filled with tears. My husband glared at me like I'd just committed a crime. He rushed to her side, muttering, "It's just a swing. You didn't have to be cruel." But standing there, looking at the broken metal and the empty space where my happiness used to hang, I didn't feel cruel. I felt betrayed. Because it wasn't just about the swing. It was about years of being the quiet wife, the one who lets things slide, the one who sacrifices the little joys for the sake of keeping peace. And now, even the one thing that had been purely mine was gone. Brenda left without saying goodbye. The sound of her car pulling away echoed through the yard like a full stop at the end of a long sentence. My husband didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. He just kept pacing, muttering about how I should have shown more compassion. But compassion doesn't mean letting people trample over what matters to you. It doesn't mean watching something your child gave you, with love and thought and care, get destroyed because someone couldn't respect a simple boundary. That night, I sat on the deck with a blanket wrapped around me, staring at the broken swing. The tears came hard and fast, not for Brenda, not even for the fight, but for the loss of something pure. Jake came out quietly, sat beside me, and without a word, took my hand. "It's okay, Mom," he said softly. "We'll get another one." And in that moment, I realized the swing wasn't gone. The love behind it was still there, stronger than any metal hook or stitched fabric. Maybe forgiveness would come later. Maybe it wouldn't. But what I knew for sure was this: my worth wasn't measured in broken things or hurt feelings, or in the weight of someone else's choices. It was in the heart of a son who wanted his mom to have something beautiful. And that's something no one could ever take away. Storicio. My daughter uninvited me to her wedding because my ex-wife insisted her new husband should be the one to walk her down the aisle. So I accepted not to attend, but what happened next shocked everyone. I made sure. Chapter 1, The Uninvited Father. The ivory envelope sat on my kitchen table for days before I opened it. I already knew what it was. My daughter Emily was getting married. The kind of day a father dreams of. I pictured the two of us, arm in arm, walking slowly down the aisle, her trembling hand in mine as I whispered how proud I was. A small blessing, a smile, a nod. But when I finally opened the envelope, those dreams shattered with one sentence. "Dad, I think it's best if you don't come to the wedding. Mom feels it would be awkward. Craig will walk me down the aisle. Please understand, Craig, my ex-wife's new husband, the man she married barely a year after our divorce." I stared at the note, numb. 17 years of fatherhood, of ballet recital and scraped knees, of staying up during fevers, of building dollhouses and teaching her how to drive. All of it wiped away by one sentence and a man who didn't even know her favorite color. No fight, no anger. I didn't even call her. I just folded the note, placed it back into the envelope, and whispered, "All right. You want Craig to walk you down the aisle? So be it." But deep inside, something had shifted, not in rage, but in resolve. They thought I'd stay quiet. They had no idea what I was about to do next. Chapter 2, The Forgotten Years. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking back to the early years when Emily was 5 and terrified of thunderstorms. She'd crawl into my bed, clinging to me like I was the only thing standing between her and the sky falling. Or the time I took her to Disneyland on my own just after the divorce, trying to keep her little heart whole when our family had just been torn apart. I remembered all of it. Every tear, every laugh, every late-night science project and piano recital. And now I was reduced to a man uninvited from his own daughter's wedding. But what stung the most wasn't that she chose someone else to walk her down the aisle. It was that she let my ex-wife, the woman who had cheated on me, left me and poisoned Emily's mind, rewrite history. She had slowly chipped away at my image. Subtle lies here, little jabs there, making herself the hero and me, the distant dad, even though I was the one who stayed, who never remarried, who never stopped showing up. And now she'd won. Or so she thought. The call that changed everything. 2 days after receiving the letter, I got a call. It was from my attorney Rachel, a longtime friend and someone who knew the full story. The betrayal, the court battles, the parental alienation. I told her everything. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "You've sacrificed enough, Eric. If she wants Craig to be her father in front of everyone, fine. But you can still be the father who sets the tone behind the scenes. That's when it began. My quiet plan, not for revenge, not to ruin the day, but to remind everyone who I really was and show them that some debts of the heart, when left unpaid, come back with interest. Chapter 3, The Silent Gift. The wedding was just 1 week away when I made my move. I didn't call Emily. I didn't try to plead my case. That would have given them power. Made me look like the desperate, bitter father begging for scraps. Instead, I called Uncle Ray, my late brother's best friend, a quiet man, wealthy beyond belief, and someone Emily had never even met. But I had done him a favor once, a big one, and he had always said, "If you ever need me, just say the word." This was the word. "I need a gift delivered at the reception," I told him. "It needs to arrive exactly 10 minutes before the bride walks in. I'll send you the contents." Ry didn't ask questions. He simply said, "Consider it done." The content of the gift. Inside the gift box, I placed a printed photo album titled, "The Father She Forgot." Inside were pictures of Emily and me, her first bike ride, her broken leg, and the week I stayed by her bedside. The day she got into her dream college, which I paid for in full. A photo of the old necklace she gave me on my 40th birthday that read, "Best Dad Ever." And right on the last page was a simple note. "You may have forgotten who held your hand through childhood, but I never forgot the weight of yours and mine. Love, the man who didn't walk you down the aisle because he carried you every step before it." The note was handwritten, and beneath it I placed a check for $75,000. Why? Because I had paid for the wedding, every last flower, every catered meal, every rented chair. Emily didn't know. Her mother had asked me to keep it quiet. Said it would ruin the surprise. I was about to ruin something else, but not out of spite, out of truth. The countdown begins. By the time the wedding day arrived, I had one final message delivered. This time to Craig, the man replacing me at the altar. It was short. "Walker proud, just know the aisle may look short, but it was paved by 17 years of someone else's footsteps." The message was unsigned, but he'd know. Emily would too, soon enough. Chapter 4, The Gift That Stopped the Wedding. The sun was setting perfectly over the vineyard where the ceremony was being held. White chairs, golden arches, dozens of guests dressed to the nines, sipping champagne, smiling, blissfully unaware that something was about to detonate in the emotional center of this event. Emily stood behind the curtain in her bridal gown, clutching her bouquet. Her mother flitted nervously nearby, checking makeup, adjusting her veil, and fussing over last-minute details. Craig was near the altar, adjusting his tie, grinning confidently as the music swelled. And that's when it arrived. The box, a professionally wrapped silver box, was hand-delivered by a courier wearing a black suit. On the tag for the bride to be opened before the walk down the aisle, Emily, confused, opened it. At first, she smiled, thinking it was a sweet surprise from Craig, but as she opened the photo album and flipped through each page, her smile vanished. The first photo, her on a swing set held by my hands. The caption, age 3, learned to swing with Dad. Second, her in a hospital bed with a cast, me feeding her soup. Caption, age 7, broke her leg. He stayed every night. Third, her 16th birthday. The necklace caption. She called him her hero. She turned page after page, the music outside still playing. The guests unaware until she reached the final page. That letter. She read it twice. Her lips trembled. Then she saw the check taped to the back. $75,000, the note beside it. "For your future, even if I'm not part of it." The collapse. She dropped the album. Where did this come from? She asked the courier, but he was already gone. Vanished. Her mother walked over and picked up the album. The moment she saw it, her face went pale. "You said Dad couldn't afford to help," Emily whispered, her voice cracking. "You told me he walked away, that he didn't want to be involved." "You said I didn't think he'd..." Her mother stammered. "Didn't think he'd what? Care enough? Show up with love while you tried to erase him?" Outside at the altar, the music stopped. People looked around. Craig's phone buzzed. It was a text from Emily. "Give me a moment. I need to rethink who's really walking me through life." Then she walked out alone. Not down the aisle. Out of the venue. Chapter 5, The Walk She Chose. 3 hours later, I was in my workshop, not sulking, not crying, just breathing. It had been one of those rare, calm evenings. I'd accepted that my daughter Emily had chosen another path. I wasn't invited to walk her down the aisle. I wasn't even supposed to be a footnote in her new life. Then a soft knock on the garage door. I wiped my hands, opened it, and there she was, still in her wedding gown, mascara streak clutched in one hand, the photo album pressed tightly to her chest like a life raft. She didn't say a word at first, neither did I until she broke the silence. "You were never the problem, Dad. I just believed what I was told." I stepped aside and she walked in. Father and daughter. We sat on the old couch, the one I'd kept all these years. She looked around at the walls covered in framed memories, handwritten notes, crayon drawings, school awards, every single one of hers. She looked down at the ring still on her finger. I didn't marry him. I couldn't. Not after today. I was stunned. "What happened?" I finally asked. She smiled through tears. "I realized I was about to say I do in front of people who clapped when you were erased, who let Mom rewrite the story. And I didn't want a future where the best man I knew wasn't even invited. The wedding that wasn't." By the next day, the story had reached everyone. The groom's family was furious, her mother speechless. Guests demanded answers, but Emily said nothing to the press, to the whispers, or to her mother. She stayed with me for 2 weeks. We reconnected, laughed, cried, talked. She helped clean up the garage. I helped her sort her future. And then she asked the one thing I never expected. "Will you walk me down the aisle one day if it's with someone who really respects what we have?" I smiled. "I'll walk you anywhere, kiddo." Epilogue full circle. 2 years later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, the sun filtered softly through golden leaves as I stood outside a small chapel in Vermont. The music started, the doors opened, and there she was, Emily, radiant, graceful, no trace of hesitation in her eyes. But this time, there was something profoundly different. She wasn't holding on to fear or shame. She was holding my arm as we walked down the aisle together. There was no crowd mocking me, no sneering in-laws, no controlling ex-wife. Instead, there was warmth, applause, and love. The guests stood. The groom, Mark, a kind, grounded man who ran a local youth center, smiled wide with tears in his eyes. He had personally invited me to every planning meeting, insisted I be front and center, and told me plainly, "You raised her. You gave her strength. Today is just as much yours." At the altar, before she let go of my arm, Emily whispered, "You were the only constant, the one who never gave up on me, even when I did." Then she kissed my cheek and turned to begin her future. A letter that changed everything. Weeks later, I received a thick envelope in the mail. Inside was a printed article from a national wedding magazine. The headline, "She walked away from the wrong aisle to reclaim the right one." And just below that, in her own words, "To every child who was made to believe their parents' love was disposable. This is for you." I almost lost the man who gave me everything. Not because he failed me, but because I let others rewrite his worth. Don't wait to walk back. Do it now. Final scene. That framed article now sits on the mantel beside a photo of me and Emily, arms linked, walking together. And on quiet evenings, I sometimes glance at it and smile. Because sometimes the greatest revenge is healing in full view of those who tried to erase you, and being loved loudly, proudly, by the one who once forgot who you were. Was this revenge perfectly justified?